Welcome to the Audio Explorers podcast. I'm Simon Head, and once again this weekend, after a bit of a quiet one last weekend, we got a big weekend of fights coming down the line with PFL, Cage Warriors and UFC packing the schedule this weekend for fans of mixed martial arts. Let's run through each of these three fight cards and mark your card with the bouts to look out for on what is another packed weekend of mixed martial arts action. Here we go. Alright, kicking things off on Friday night in Nantes, France. We have PFL Europe 3. It was supposed to be the homecoming show for the Lazy King, Abdul Abduragimov. Unfortunately, he's now unable to compete at that event. We have a new main event there in Nantes, France. Amin Ayoub taking on Donovan Desmay. France versus Belgium. Two very experienced fighters at 155 pounds. Ayoub 25-5 taking on Desmay 19-10. Desmay, a former Cage Warriors veteran. Ayoub has been around the block himself as well. Should be an interesting one to headline that card in France. If you've not seen one of these PFL Europe cards from France, it almost doesn't matter who's on the card. If there's French fighters on the card, you know that the atmosphere is going to be absolutely through the roof. And over there in Nantes, it should be a pretty spectacular show. Ayoub versus Desmay will headline that card. Looking further down the card, light heavyweights will feature in the co-main. More Belgian participation in that one. Boris Mbaga Atanga, or Atangana, he says, actually pronouncing it properly, taking on Johnny Gregory from Brazil. And then what we have then, leading into the co-main and the main events, are the real meat of the fight card. This is where the real business is being done. We have the bantamweight and lightweight PFL tournaments will determine the final participants in their respective weight classes. Connor Hughes taking on Gio Van Steenis in one half of the lightweight bracket. On the other half of the lightweight bracket, Italy's Claudio Pacella taking on Alexander Chizov of Austria. The two winners will face off in the lightweight finale later this year in Lyon, France. The bantamweights are also in action. England's Dean Garnett, who has been a real sort of veteran and trailblazer for the sport here in the UK. He's a superb fighter. He's a great coach. And he's one step away from a place in that bantamweight final. He takes on undefeated Polish contender Jan Klepowski, who is 9-0. Garnett is 13-3-1. But that is going to be an absolute barn burner of a fight. It's going to be a really interesting one. Garnett has got all the experience on his side. Klepowski, super impressive form heading in, but Garnett has been there, seen it, done it, has got that experience advantage. That'll be a really interesting one at 135 pounds. The winner of that will take on the winner of the night's other bantamweight semi-final. Portugal's Gustavo Oliveira taking on France's Baris Adziguel. I hope I pronounced Adiguzel. Sorry, I'm having an absolute shocker with the pronunciations this week. But Baris Adiguzel in the second bantamweight semi-final. I'd say winner will take on the winner of the Dean Garnett versus Jan Klepowski semi-final. They are the two tournament brackets that are going to be playing out over the course of the main card on Friday night in Paris. The main card will also see undefeated Irish lightweight Dara Kelly taking on Bakhtiar Abdullayev of Germany. He's 10-1. Kelly's 8-0. That should be a high-level matchup at 155 pounds. Scotland's Mark Ewan returns to action at 155 against Belgian's Sebastian DeFranco. And a bit further down, Ireland's Kia O'Sullivan will make a professional debut at strawweight against another debutant, Maria Guedes Jr. of Colombia. So that should be a decent fight card to kick off your MMA weekend from Nantes, France. That is PFL Europe 3. We move on to Saturday night. Cage Warriors are back in action in Dublin, Ireland. Cage Warriors 194, Duarte versus Hill. Live on UFC Fight Pass as usual. I meant to mention, the PFL fight card will be live in the UK on DAZN. Globally, it will be, or certainly stateside, it will be on the PFL app. But here in the UK, DAZN is the place to find the PFL and the PFL Europe fight cards. So that will be Friday night. Saturday night, UFC Fight Pass, Cage Warriors 194, Hill versus Duarte from Dublin, Ireland at the RDS. The main event will see Brazil's Luan Duarte, 14-11, taking on Ireland's Leon Hill. Important fight for the weight class. Leon looking to move himself into championship contention at £170. They've given him a tough, seasoned, experienced opponent in Luan Duarte in that main event. The co-main, an interesting one at £145. Wales' Ben Ellis taking on Ireland's Max Lally. Now, Max has come through the amateur ranks, was one of the standout competitors on the Irish amateur team. He's now in the pros. He's 4-0, looking to make his way up the featherweight division in Cage Warriors and eventually put himself in position to be spotted by those UFC matchmakers and maybe get a shot on Contender Series or even maybe an immediate call to the UFC. Early in his career right now at 4-0, but he's got a chance here in the co-main event slot to really showcase his talents against Ben Ellis from Wales, who comes into this fight 4-2. Also on the fight card, we've got Jer Harris taking on Johnny Tuma. Tuma from Sweden, 6-4. Harris, 5-3. This is a flyweight matchup that potentially the winner could start to move towards title contention. They're probably going to need another win or two after this, but momentum is a lot in this game. If you can get a good win here, especially if it's Harris and he gets a good crowd-pleasing win on home soil in Ireland, that can really propel him forward in that 125-pound division. Adam Darby will look to do exactly that. At 170 pounds, he takes on Robert Alexandru Constantin from Romania. Constantin 6-0, undefeated heading into this one. Darby 5-1, but he'll be confident. He's got the home cage advantage. He'll have those fans, friends and family in the stands for sure, looking to cheer him on to victory. And we've got more Ireland versus the rest of the world earlier on in the fight card as well. Conor McCarthy, undefeated Irish lightweight, 4-0 right now, taking on Diego Vizanze of Spain. He's 5-2, but Conor McCarthy, high hopes for him at £155. The main card will kick off with an all-Irish matchup at 145 as well. Keith Keogh, 2-0 versus Damien McKenna, 3-0. Someone's always got to go in that main card opener in Dublin, Ireland. Just scanning down the rest of this card, notable names. Stephen Costello of Ireland, 5-3 of the welterweight division, taking on Manuel de Valle. Anthony Orozco, undefeated at 7-0 from the United States, picking up impressive wins as he works his way up the ranks there in the welterweight division, taking on a very experienced Aldo Pereira, who is a 22-fight veteran of the sport. Big experience advantage on the side of the Brazilian there, but Orozco, as I say, undefeated, really good wrestling background. He'll be favoured to win that one. Ryan Shelley is in action on the prelims, taking on Gabriel Galluccio of Italy. Gary Priestley of Scotland taking on Gary Rooney at £125. Battle of the Garys at flyweight. And we have Joe Doyle versus Jamie McGowan at featherweight. Jamie Abbott-Bissett, another fighter who come through the amateur scene, taking on Matthew Friel. Norbert Petrazak of the UK taking on Trevor Makengo. Elmire Darcy versus Justina Kalinska. And Kenny Mokahuana versus Damon Donald. It's a packed fight card. We've got 16 fights on that card. Cage Warriors giving you plenty of bang for your buck. Loads of fights to get stuck into. The prelims will be on a separate stream on Fight Pass, so don't fall foul of that. Whenever Cage Warriors has their events on Fight Pass, they have the prelims on a stream and then they'll reset and have the main card on a stream. Sometimes they have a little bit of a gap in between because they have a hard start time for the main card. Normally it's about 8 p.m, sometimes 9 p.m. So check that out. UFC Fight Pass on Saturday night. Cage Warriors 194 from Dublin, Ireland. So we have the PFL on Friday night. We have Cage Warriors on Saturday evening. And then late Saturday night, the usual time slot for UFC. Middle of the night stuff, as per usual. This one coming from Perth, Australia. UFC Fight Night. Ulberg versus Reyes. Really important fight in the light heavyweight division. It almost feels like we've got a bit of an unofficial tournament going on at £205. We talked on previous shows about what's happening at middleweight and the fact that we had two contender fights looking to determine who will be the next guy to challenge for the belt and take on Khamzat Chimaev. It's kind of a similar situation at 205 where the championship is actually going to be contested next weekend at UFC 320. when Magomed Ankalaev rematches Alex Pereira for the 205-pound title. The big question is, who will face the winner of that fight? We have a big contender fight this weekend, and we have another big contender fight at UFC 320 next weekend. The one happening this weekend is in the main event. Carlos Ulberg of New Zealand taking on Dominick Reyes of the United States. Reyes, of course, a former title challenger and a man who, depending on who you talk to in the sport, was the guy who arguably should have been given the win over John Jones. He actually lost that fight on a unanimous decision. A lot of people thought Dom Reyes had done enough to win that fight, and he'd looked absolutely brilliant up to that point in his career. He lost that fight by decision, heartbreakingly so. Went on a little bit of a losing skid, and it looked like, okay, maybe that's it for Dom Reyes. He kind of peaked at the top, had his shot at the king, missed, and then he's kind of fallen away. It's taken him a little while. It's taken him a couple of knockout losses. He's gone and licked his wounds. He's gone away. He's taken a year and a bit away from the sport. He's come back, and now he's in stellar form once again, and he's looking to earn himself a shot at the title once again. He lost to Jones back at UFC 247 back in February of 2020. Bounces back later that year to take on Jan Blachowicz. Gets knocked out in the second round. Then takes on Jiri Prochazka in May of the following year, 2021. Gets KO'd by a spinning back elbow by the Czech. Then in November of 2022, having taken more than a year off, takes on Ryan Spann, gets knocked out with a jab in the first round, and things are looking pretty terrible for Dom Reyes. 4 losses on the spin, 3 KO defeats on the spin. What's happening with the Devastator's career? Well, he took a bit of time away. He recomposed himself. He healed up any lasting injuries, and got back to the drawing board and came back against Dustin Jacoby in June of 2024. Knocks him out in the first round. Then they give him former title challenger Anthony Lionheart Smith. He finishes him with ground and pound in the second round at UFC 310. And most recently, in April this year, he fights again at UFC 314. This time they give him Nikita Krylov, and he knocks him out in the first round with a superb left hand. That one has put him right back in the mix at 205 pounds. He's on a win streak. And now, if he can get past Carlos Ulberg, who is viewed by many as the sort of the coming man at 205 pounds, then Dom Reyes is going to be front and centre, screaming for a title shot at 205 pounds. The problem is, he's taking on Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg is 12-1 and has looked absolutely brilliant since he joined the UFC. He won through the Contender Series back in November of 2020 with a first round knockout of Bruno Oliveira. Gets a fight with Kennedy Nzechukwu on his debut and gets stopped in the second round. It was like, whoa, okay. Is that the end of the hype right there? No. Kennedy Nzechukwu has eventually gone on and moved up to the heavyweight division, and he's doing good things at heavyweight. He looks very good at heavyweight. In the meantime, Carlos Ulberg has carried on his career at light heavyweight, and he's doing pretty incredible things himself. He beats Fabio Charant on the scorecards, knocks out Tafon Chukwi in the first round, and then stops Nikolai Nagumuranu in the first round. Ihor Potiera in the first round. Do-Woon Jung submits him in the third round. Just letting people know he's not just a kickboxer, he's got some submission skills as well. That was back in September 2023. He then knocks out Alonzo Menafield in 12 seconds in May 2024. 12 seconds. And that one really was the fight that he went from being, okay, this is a talented prospect, to this guy could be a major problem at the top of the division. Absolutely toasts Menafield in 12 seconds. They then give him 2, arguably, of the toughest tests that you could give him in a division. Volkan Ozdemir, hard-hitting, well-drilled, good everywhere, and just a solid operator that doesn't get beat easily. They gave him Volkan back in November 2024. He wins the unanimous decision against No Time Volkan Ozdemir. They then give him former champion Jan Blachowicz in March this year. This was really the acid test. If you can get past a former champion like Jan Blachowicz, who hits like a truck, who's got strong wrestling, he's got good submissions on the ground, and can take the fight wherever he wants to go, you beat him, you're a contender, and there's no argument about that. He beat Jan Blachowicz. He beat him by the unanimous decision back in March. Now he's got himself a fight with another former title challenger in Dom Reyes. So this will be his third straight bout against someone who's been in a UFC light heavyweight championship fight. And if he can beat Dominick Reyes this weekend, he will probably be front and center for a shot at the light heavyweight belt. But the thing that we need to bear in mind here and needs to be at the back of our minds as we're watching this fight is the other fight that's going to be taking place in the division. At UFC 320, Khalil Rountree, RDX Sports' very own ambassador, Khalil Rountree, will be taking on Jiri Prochazka in what also looks like a top contender fight. So whoever gets the most impressive performance out of these two fights, I think is going to be the one that gets the title fight. You look at Carlos Ulberg. He looks like he's come straight off the front of GQ magazine. He is a part-time model when he's not in the cage fighting. He looks the part, and he looks great in the cage as well. He does the business. He would be a great poster boy for the sport and for the division. And he knocks people out. So all of that really plays into his advantage. But he hasn't knocked out a truly elite level light heavyweight yet. If he can knock out Dom Reyes, then it's going to be hard to deny his credentials for a title fight. The other fight, Prochazka, a former champion, looking to make his way back. Someone who the fans love to watch fight. He's so unorthodox, but he's so entertaining at the same time. If he wins by stoppage, his case is going to look pretty damn strong as well. And then you got Khalil Rountree, someone who's got an incredible backstory, an incredible career arc that has seen him right up there at the very top. He fought Alex Pereira for the belt and got stopped, but gave Pereira arguably his toughest night at the office before Pereira lost to Magomed Ankalaev more recently. But that was an incredible performance in defeat from Khalil Rountree. If he can stop Jiri Prochazka, then all of a sudden he becomes a real factor. And we'll see how it all pans out. There's lots of moving parts. You've got this fight this weekend. You've got the Prochazka versus Rountree fight next weekend. Plus you've got the title fight itself next weekend as Magomed Ankalaev rematches Alex Pereira. All of these things will help determine what happens next at 205 pounds. But if you're Dom Reyes and you're Carlos Ulberg, you can't worry about what's going to happen next weekend. You've just got to make sure that you win and ideally win spectacularly. If you can win spectacularly this weekend, state your case, and really you be the person in the box seat before any of the fights next week even take place. That's the best you can do. So that main event is really, really big for the UFC 205 pound division. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Two guys that love to stand and strike. Both men have certainly got the power to put the lights out on the other. And I cannot wait to see how that plays out. That is the main event of UFC Fight Night in Perth, Australia. All right, let's take a run down some of the other fights to follow on the UFC Perth fight card. Co-main event as listed right now. The fight card's had a bit of a jumble up and down. They've moved a few things around over the last few days. But as it stands right now, Jimmy Crute, Aussie light heavyweight, taking on Croatia's Ivan Erslan at 205 pounds. That should be an absolute banger of a co-main event, a real action fight at 205 pounds. You've got one of my favourite fighters from Australia, Jack Jenkins. Jack Jenkins, nicknamed after the great horse race, Far Lap. And Jack Jenkins is as big of a horse racing fan as you could ever wish to meet. Certainly in combat sports, he absolutely loves the GGs. And JJ will be getting in the cage to take on Ramon Tavares of the United States at 145 pounds. This is a big fight for Jack Jenkins. He's getting a decent showcase spot on the fight card. If he gets a big win here, there could be big things down the line for him. He's an exciting fighter. He loves to just get in there and produce great action fights. He's coming off a defeat. He lost to Gabriel Santos via rear naked choke at UFC 312. But prior to that, he finished Herbert Burns. He lost prior to that via an arm injury in a fight he was doing very well in against Chepe Mariscal. But every time he gets in the cage, he's fun to watch. He's exciting. And if he can just get back into the win column this weekend and then maybe squeeze another fight in before the end of the year, he's going to have some real momentum on his side heading into 2026. And as I say, Jack Jenkins is a super impressive fighter to watch. Really exciting fighter to watch. And in Ramon Tavares, who is, I think he's 1-1 so far in his early UFC career. He's looking to prove a point himself. So we'll see how all of this pans out on fight night, but that's one to certainly circle and make sure you're in your seat for. Jack Jenkins versus Ramon Taveras. Also on the fight card, Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny. I feel a bit for Neil Magny, I've got to be honest. Neil Magny is one of the most respected guys in the division. And everybody knows what he brings to the table. He's been in the UFC what feels like forever. He's had 43 professional fights. 35 of them have been in the UFC, which is pretty incredible. And he's still relevant in the division. So much so, and such is the level of respect that he has, that he seems to be the call-out name of choice for anyone moving their way up the 170-pound division. If you want to fight somebody with a legit name, someone who's got a strong body of work and still is of relevance, then Neil Magny seems to be the name that's at the top of everybody's list. It means that Magny's never shy of opponents, so he's never a difficult man to get booked. I don't think he's someone who says no to the UFC matchmakers too often, judging by the fact he's had 35 fights in the UFC. He gets booked pretty frequently, and he's quite happy to get in there with just about anybody. He's getting in there with the Celtic kid, Jake Matthews, who it feels like he's been a prospect from Australia for forever. He's 31 years of age, but he's already had like 29 professional fights. He seems to have grown up in front of our eyes in the UFC. He's now in really good form. He's bounced sort of between wins and losses earlier in his career. Every time he felt like he got some momentum, he'd then drop a loss to someone. He's now 3 fights in a row heading into this one. He defeated Phil Rowe by decision back in June 24. Defeats Francisco Prado by decision in February 25. And most recently, he beats Chidi Njokuani via first round rear naked choke. That was a super impressive performance from him last time out in July. Now he's back in there just a few short months later against Neil Magny, a guy he called for. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, because Magny is a tough nut to crack. Magny's form right now is a little patchy. He beat Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos last time out. Prior to that, gets stopped by Carlos Praches, gets stopped by Michael Morales. But those two are the very, very best on the planet at 170 pounds. So it's hard to see those as a huge sort of negative mark against his name. They're just two guys who are a level above him right now at this stage in their career. He also has a decision loss to Ian Machado Gary, but a win over Canadian prospect Mike Malott. So he's someone who you've got to be of a certain level to get past Neil Magny. He's like a measuring stick for the welterweight division. If you could beat Neil Magny, then you can consider yourself something of a contender at 170 pounds. And I think that that is what Jake Matthews is hoping for on Saturday night. Get that win against Neil Magny, the Haitian sensation. Great nickname. And if he can get the job done there, then I think we could see the Celtic kid in there with one of the division's bigger names, even bigger names, later this year, or certainly early next year. Looking further down the fight card, we have a UFC debut for Scotland's Louis Sutherland, an absolute tank of a man. 10-3, fought in most recently for Levels Fight League, became their heavyweight champion, taking on Justin Tuffer. I can't see how this fight isn't going to be a thoroughly entertaining slugfest. I really don't. And that will be on the main card on Saturday night. Tom Nolan, 9-1 from Australia, taking on Charlie Campbell. If anybody remembers his fight with Chris Duncan in the Contender Series, was an absolute barn burner. Charlie Campbell was giving Chris Duncan all he could handle, and it looked like Duncan was close to getting beat before Duncan found a right hand from hell to knock out Charlie Campbell and earn himself a place in the UFC. Campbell has deservedly got himself a spot in the UFC roster, and he's picked up 2 consecutive victories since joining the UFC. Now he's going to look to make it 3 in a row against Tom Nolan, who himself has already won 3 fights under the UFC banner. That one will kick off the main card at 155 pounds. Looking a bit further down the fight card, on the prelims, undefeated Navajo Sterling from New Zealand takes on Rodolfo Bellato of Brazil. Andre Petrosky takes on Cam Ralston at 185. The Welsh gangster is back. Oban Elliott looking to bounce back after his first UFC defeat. He's taken on Australia's Jonathan Mikalev at 170 pounds. Oban is fired up for this one. Look out for a big performance from him. Jamie Malarkey taking on Rolando Bedoya at 155. Another prospect from Australia who people are very high on, Colby Thickness, taking on Josias Musasa from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Musasa trying to pick up his first win in the UFC. Colby Thickness looking to do very much the same. Both these guys have had one fight in the UFC. Both come off the wrong end of the result on each occasion. So both of them looking to pick up the win. Luana Carolina taking on Michelle Montague. Quick word on Michelle Montague. She is one of New Zealand's best mixed martial artists, point blank. She's great. She came through the amateur scene, super talented, a star in the IMAF tournaments and doing really well on the world stage for New Zealand. Now she's turned pro. She fought in the PFL for a while. She's undefeated as a pro, 6-0, taking on Luana Dread Carolina, who is 11-4, seasoned in the UFC. She's had 9 fights in the UFC. This will be her 10th. She's won 6 of those 9 fights. We'll see how she does against Michelle Montague. I don't want to advocate betting on fights, but if you do, and I occasionally like to put a few quid on the odd fight here and there, nothing too crazy, but yeah, Michelle Montague likes to get the job done via rear naked choke submission. I'll just leave that one with you. See how that fight pans out. But if you see Montague wins via rear naked choke, then you heard it here during fight week. Earlier on the fight card, heavyweights Brando Perisic taking on Alicia Ellison at heavyweight, and kicking off the fight night card is a good fight at strawweight. Loma Lukbunmi of Thailand against Alexia Thainara of Brazil. Loma Lukbunmi is the first fighter from Thailand to compete in the UFC. Of course, Thailand, the home of Muay Thai. The clue's in the name, right? So that's most fighters will compete in Muay Thai. They might transition into kickboxing maybe, or maybe boxing. But you don't see too many transitioning into mixed martial arts. Loma Lukbunmi has done that and has done so successfully. She's 10-3 as a pro. She's 7-2 in the UFC and is now looking to pick up win number 8. But she's going to come in against a very, very dangerous opponent who has only been in the UFC for one fight and has made huge waves already. Alexia Thainara, I had the pleasure of asking her very first UFC press conference questions when she competed in London earlier this year. She took on Meatball Molly McCann, and I remember she turned up to media day in like a Mickey Mouse onesie. So we immediately knew, okay, we've got a bit of a character here. And boy, do we have a character here. She is a bundle of energy. It is impossible not to smile when she's around. She dances. She's just incredible positive character, and she just went out there and went absolutely all guns blazing against Molly McCann. Eventually got the fight finished by submission, but she's dangerous. She's 12-1 as a professional. She's got no wins by knockout. Everything she does is done by submission pretty much. She's got 8 of her 12 wins have come by submission. The ones that she hasn't managed to tap out, she's beaten on the scorecards. She's got 1 professional loss, and that came in a 3rd pro fight against Bruna Brazil of the Fighting Nerds. I wonder whether they might have a rematch at some point in the UFC. That's one to watch out for. That'd be a fight worth booking as well. I'd like to see that. But for now, Alexia Thainara, Bergasenia is her nickname, I believe, taking on the seasoned and very talented Loma Lukbunmi. That will kick off the fight card in Perth, Australia. It should be a really good fight night. These UFC fight night cards, some people sleep on them sometimes, think, oh, it's just a fight night. It's not a number pay-per-view. Don't be one of those people. There are good fights up and down this card. They might not have the biggest names all the time. The big names tend to go to the big pay-per-view numbered shows, right? But there are some really good matchups on this card, some real talent on this fight card, and the UFC's matchmaking is generally pretty solid. And this fight card, obviously, it's catered towards the Australia/New Zealand market. There's going to be some good stuff on this fight card on Saturday night. The Aussie crowd will love it. It'll be sort of a late morning start over there in Australia. Must be the best country to watch MMA in, I think, from a time zone standpoint, right? Just get up, have a bit of a late breakfast, chill out for a bit, get the barbecue fired up, start watching the fights. And by the time you've got to mid-late afternoon and you're a few beers down, it's main event time. And then if you want to go out and extend the day afterwards, happy days, you can do that. And I think Australia might just be the best place in the world to be an MMA fan, just from the time zone perspective. So they don't get many of the big events come over, but when they do, they're generally very, very, very fun to watch. And this is the latest one, UFC Fight Night, Ulberg versus Reyes from Perth, Australia. That should be a good one. Should be a great fight card. And as per usual, the main card for that will be live on TNT Sports in the UK. The prelims will be available on UFC Fight Pass and on TNT Sports as well. All right, that's just about all we've got time for on this edition of the RDX Sports podcast. Don't forget to give us a follow at RDX Sports on X, at RDX_sports on Instagram, and you can chat me a follow as well while you're at it. Please do. It'd be very nice to have you on board the socials at Simon Head Sport across all social media platforms. Finally, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure you never miss an episode of the RDX Sports podcast. That's all we got for you this week. Enjoy the fights this weekend, whether it's PFL Europe on Friday, Cage Warriors on Saturday, or UFC Perth on Saturday night. Fill your boots, enjoy the fights, and I'll talk to you next week.